You're listening to episode 215 of the D6 podcast.
I don't know anything more important in our society or in the kingdom of God than to help the church, help the family.
Discipleship is not an event, it's a way of life.
And one day it just hit me that discipleship at home was not about doing more. It was about inviting Christ into what we were already doing.
The goal of family ministry is not families sitting on the couch holding hands and singing Kumbaya. The ultimate goal is families that love God, love people, and make disciples of all peoples.
So that's why you're here. You're here to say 1 hour a week, as significant and as awesome as it is, we know that it's not enough and we want to be intentional with every hour.
You're listening to the D6 podcast. Here's your hosts, Ron Hunter and Jeremy Lee.
This is the family ministry podcast that helps you connect the church and home. I have a very clear memory about our guest today because sometimes, Ron, I can be a matchmaker. Sometimes I know one person and I think they need to be friends with this person and I need to be the one to get them together. And I happen to remember at Texas the Longhorn Steakhouse, I invited my friend Robert Beeson and I invited you and I said, y'all both obviously love ministry. You need to know each other. You're in the family ministry space at some level. But at the end of the day, you're the two biggest food nerds that I've ever met in my life. And y'all, I just want to sit back and watch you talk.
Yeah.
And it worked out perfect.
It did. We had a wonderful time. It was actually the second time that Robert and I had a meal together. We had some team members, and he met over another topic 4 or 5 years ago, but we never jumped into the food area like we did that day. And you set it up, and oh man,
I learned
we had
so
a blast.
much about all the geekery that is involved in
cooking?
Preparing food.
Yes. Well, you don't cook very much, do you?
No.
I mean, you're a grill master, aren't you?
But y'all cooked meat in bags with water, and you have thermometers and temperatures and gauges.
And meat tenderizers, yes.
Goodness.
Yes, there's a method to the flavor. Remember that. There's a method to the flavor.
So if
it doesn't just magically happen.
If you want a good meal, Ron or Robert are your tickets. Funny because we were at Longhorn. That's not really
No, but I enjoy Longhorn. But yeah, we were talking about everything except what was there, just about.
Throwing shade at Longhorn on
I
this
know.
podcast. Sorry about that, Longhorn. I bet y'all are awesome.
Hater.
Okay, so Robert is just one of my friends. I love Robert to death. I love his heart. He's going to share his story of how he became a single dad and what God did in his life through that, and how now God is using him to change the lives of many families that are parented by single parents. It's an incredible thing that you're going to enjoy. But before we get too far into that, I want to bring back a topic we talked about earlier because I just think it's one of those resources. Because you know what? Life happens. There are expenses to creating resources, and so therefore there has to be a charge to purchase the resources. That's life.
Yeah.
But every once in a while, something comes along that you offer with the heart of a gift, and that's what I've done with this D6 app. It is free. Now, let's make sure we understand that it is introducing a whole group of people to your resources. We know ultimately it's a marketing tool for you.
That's right.
Be very clear about that.
Yeah, we know you're going to bump into it, but the amount of free content in here,
it's a gift.
You could ask a family fun question inside your family every day for the next year and a half and not repeat a question. Let me just state it that way.
Exactly.
You can look in there to the Splink and find that connection and find that archive and new ideas every single week, and there's going to be 3 of them. Absolutely free. Home Connection, how to read, pray, and do something with your family, free every week. Family fun nights. How do we create? I mean, our kids roll their eyes because we're doing the same thing and we're gathering around a TV. Well, let's look at something a little bit more creative that starts some conversations. We're going to give you those items. We're obviously going to let you bump into the D6 conference, and then there's a window down there. We're going to show you our newest products if you click on the link from where we're doing, and then who we are and what we're about. So there's also, Jeremy, I don't know if you knew this or not, but right down the very bottom, second button from the left, what does it say?
podcast.
So a quick link to the podcast if you want to share it with other people and you've been listening all these years and episodes with us, just, hey, tell them to download the app and you can click straight to the podcast.
We're on the app.
We're on the app. Again, that's
amazing.
free. So Jeremy's right. It is a way for us to keep our branding out there, but we know what apps we regularly use on our phone. And this is one that's becoming a more go-to app because of the family fun questions, the podcast, and other areas.
It's free, and it's not really meant for church leaders. It's meant for the parents in your church. So send it out to them. Costs them nothing, and helps you continue the D6 conversation with them. Okay, so our guest today is Robert Beeson, and after the break, we're going to come back and learn more from this really, really incredible guest. You're going to enjoy it. Every one of you have single parents, families in your church. You are going to want to learn this encouragement and kind of think through how you can grow the way you serve them. After the break, we'll be back with Robert Beeson. Hey, everybody, welcome. I have a friend to introduce to you today, Robert Beeson. Robert, thanks for being with us.
Oh, man, it's my pleasure. And you're right, friends, absolutely. I appreciate you, Jeremy.
Robert Beeson is a Grammy Award-winning. How many people can say they have friends that are Grammy Award winners? I can.
Well, if you live in Nashville.
Okay,
quite a few.
Fair enough. Grammy Award-winning founder of Essential Records and former senior vice president of Sony in Providence. And in 2006, his wife left him to raise his 3 daughters on his own. The unexpected God factor of this journey reframed his understanding of every aspect of life. That's a great way to phrase that. Good job. Robert draws on his solo season as a single parent and authoring a Focus on the Family book called Going Solo. He started Solo Parent Society to unify, equip, and empower single parents. Now, that's the bio, and that's really cool and everything, but I've actually heard the story.
Yeah.
And I want our listeners to hear that story. You started out, if you're listening to this and you know Jars of Clay, you have Robert to thank for Jars of Clay. He discovered them and helped bring their career to the forefront, and along with many others. But you're in the music world. You're in that business. It's got its glamour. It's got all its stuff. But then you have all kinds of stuff happening. Just tell us the story.
Yeah, the rug gets pulled out. So I started a label, and it was called Essential Records, and we we were very fortunate. We had some very big success very quickly. I say fortunate, but there's a flip side to that, and that is that, like anything, even something done with the right intentions can become consuming. And it certainly was that for me. The music business kind of seduced me into really just chasing platinum, gold records, Grammys, and the success, and I lost sight of some of the original reasons that most people get into Christian music. And so I didn't, to take full responsibility, I didn't set a good foundation for my marriage. Because there was no big moral failure, it wasn't anything, but it's interesting, I think in anything, even in ministry, if you're not careful in protecting those at home and making that your first priority, you are really building on not good foundation. So that's basically what happened. My wife, after 13 years, decided that she had had enough. She had developed kind of her own issues, and addiction was a part of that, and it went downhill fairly quickly. She decided that she didn't want to be married anymore, so she literally just left, and left me with my 3 girls, who were 9, 7, and 4 at the time. At the same time, 3 months prior to her leaving, I left Sony. My contract was up, and I decided I was going to start again. I was at the age where I'm like, I'm not going to get many more chances up to bat. So I, within the course of my 40th birthday, a month later, I leave Sony, and 2 months later, my wife leaves me, and it was just completely the rug pulled out. And, but it turns out that. And then for the next 8.5 years, I raised my girls on my own with full custody. And one of the most difficult things that I've ever done, but without a doubt, the most important thing that's ever happened to me and the most transformational thing that ever happened to me. And so, which has led me to do what I do now. And that's reach out to other single parents, because I figured, during this time of being a single dad, there weren't a lot of resources out there for single parents. And yet 34% of U.S. households, according to the U.S. Census, are single-parent homes. We need to be doing something about that as a church. If we look at these families as kind of the widows and orphans of our society, we have a long way to go to really reach them. And so that's what I've kind of dedicated this half of my life to doing.
And out of that, you wrote the book Going Solo.
Correct.
It came from Focus on the Family.
Yeah.
And it's out of that, you birthed the ministry Solo Parent Society. Tell the story of how all that began, how that took place.
Well, like I said, there weren't a lot of resources. And so I started blogging, and then I started vlogging, and then that became kind of a template to a book. And then I got some interest from Focus on the Family, and that seemed like a really good partnership. And so we did the book, and then I realized that, the book wasn't enough, that really, it's a great resource. And it tells my story, and it gives really important principles about how I found healing and hope in that season. But not just getting through that season, but how that actually transformed me. So the book is a really important part of the story. But I knew that if I was going to be effective at really reaching single parents, there needed to be kind of boots on the ground, so to speak. And so I started this organization, this nonprofit called Solo Parent Society. And we started with just one support group in Franklin, Tennessee, and opened it up to see if single parents wanted to be a part of it. And we were at capacity in the first week, and it just hasn't stopped. And it's grown now. We're in 18 states and in the U.S. military, and our podcast is growing 45,000. I don't even know how to qualify that. I think there's probably 14 people that keep listening over and over. But I mean, it's growing. The reach is growing, and it's been remarkable. And it's not because there's any strategy on my side. It's because the need is so enormous, and nobody has done anything to this point. So it's been a labor of love and something that has been so fulfilling.
What do you see in churches? What mistakes are they making with single parents?
I think that churches in general, this is a very general statement, so I take it as that, right? I think they care about single parents. I just don't think they know what to do. And I think the stigma of divorce still looms over the church. And I'll say partially rightly so. It's a bad thing. Divorce is terrible. It's not a good thing. But it happens. And so I know some churches are a little concerned about getting involved and say, does that mean that we endorse divorce or that we condone it in some way? And so I think it's just kept them, I don't really know what to do. And I'll say that another thing that's happened in our society is because there are so many single parents, it's become kind of a new norm. It's almost like just a thing you check off on a status, like status of ethnicity or gender, single parent. It's such another norm. But the other side of that is it's not normal at all. U.S. Census stats are 63% of all suicides, 75% of chemical-dependent kids, 85% of incarcerated kids come from single-parent homes. But the church, as part of the society, has just kind of gone, well, that's also in the mix. That single parents is just kind of a new norm. And so I don't think there's been any urgency to go after that. And I couldn't not do it, because coming out of the season, I'm married again, of being solo, I couldn't not go back and do something for those, because I was haunted by the thought of all these parents that were struggling just like I was, and there's still no resources, there's still no support. And so I thought, well, I'll just use whatever I know about media and building movements or companies and try to do something about that. Never been in the nonprofit world, but it's been remarkable how it's resonated.
That's amazing. Hey, we're going to take a quick break, and after the break, I'm going to ask Robert to talk to us about the seminars that he's teaching here at the D6 conference, and we're going to get a little bit of a sneak peek into what he's sharing while he's here. We are with Robert Beeson, author of Going Solo and creator of the Solo Parent Society. We'll talk more with him right after the break.
Hey everybody, it's your good friend Pastor Steve with the Elements Kids Worship team. Elements Kids Worship is a completely downloadable 52-week curriculum for use in your church with either midweek programming, kids' church hour, or even with small groups. Through Elements, kids experience deeper growth and understanding of what it means to walk with Christ. This is accomplished by teaching firm biblical truths and emphasizing the need for kids to not only understand what the Bible says, but to apply it to their own personal lives. Elements Kids Worship is a valuable and economical tool for your church to use to impact kids with the elemental truths of God's Word. Oh, hey, one more thing. Be sure to head over to d6family.com to check out Elements Kids Worship for yourself.
Hey, we're back with Robert Beeson. And Robert, you are, while you're here at D6, you're teaching. And I love how you have phrased this. You're saying that ministry to single parents, families that have gone through divorce, unplanned pregnancy, the death of a spouse, all of those things, that it's an opportunity for ministry. And you're talking at D6 about the opportunity of ministry that provides. Give us some highlights from that seminar, because our listeners won't have been. So give us some tips.
So today we spoke about the empowering of a single parent, and I'm trying to frame there is an opportunity here, because when the rug gets pulled out, you, like it or not, everything is stripped away. The roles that you used to play, husband, wife, executive, whatever, you're kind of just at ground zero. And especially if you go through divorce, it can get nasty. And so I'm not looking at it and saying, people, you should go get divorced. It's an opportunity for you to find God. I mean, that's not what I mean by it. But there's an opportunity in brokenness to understand the intimacy of our Father for us, like no other time. At least that was my story. And so what I've been trying to talk about is let's try to figure out how to frame conversations to help single parents. And today we talked about empowering single parents. And specifically, it's not just the message that you want to give a single parent about how to help with what they're going through. It's how you approach them, because there are nuances to it that are unique to single parents, because usually there are big trust issues involved when someone's just gone through divorce. And so, just jumping in and saying, here's the roadmap typically doesn't work. I mean, I think what it kind of distills to, the best and most powerful way you can empower a single parent is to be with them in it. And that's uncomfortable sometimes, because as a church, we like to get things all tidy, and this is exactly what it's going to look like, and the life of a single parent is messy. But in the same way as Jesus came to earth, Emmanuel, God with us, I believe that's a call for the church to be with single parents in this season. And I think it's incredible that the brokenness that is being embraced in single parents can actually have an effect on a church. It can bring you back to the need, the great depravity that we have in our souls, and the vacuum that we have, because we're not being propped up by all those roles that we play. So we discussed that today, and then my next session is, okay, so if that's important to us, how do we reach single parents? Because the interesting thing is, when we started Solo Parent Society at our church, 30% of the people that came didn't attend the church at the time. So it became this incredible outreach opportunity for churches to bring people in that aren't currently in church, because the statistics are 67% of single parents don't attend church because they feel judged and like they don't belong. So we're going to tackle that in the next session.
I love that. Hey, listen, we've been listening to Robert Beeson. Robert, if they want to find you online or get a part of what you're doing, where can they find you?
You can email info@spsociety.org, or soloparentsociety.com is our website.
Perfect. Hey, thank you for being with us. It's been awesome.
It's my pleasure.
Always love seeing you. And I'm glad all of you out in the podcast world got to meet my friend Robert Beeson and hear about the work he's doing. Pretty incredible stuff. Thanks again.
Thanks, Jeremy.
Our thanks go to Robert. You have I knew you were going to do great. I love seeing your face at D6 Conference. I hope you come back again and again.
You know, I'm going to challenge you as a listener today. If you've heard Robert's story, you've heard him talk about the opportunity in brokenness. The first time I met Robert, there's one item that he said to me I never forgot. It had nothing to do with food. But he said, if churches can figure out how to minister in the midst of broken families, they will stand out from all the other churches, and there will be a crowd that will flock to them because they so desperately desire people who understand where they are and how to minister to them. So you guys need to dive deeper into what Robert is saying here and figure out how to position yourselves for it. At D6, people have assumed, hey, we're that perfect family ministry model. No. We've always included people like Robert and the families because we know the statistics out there and the amount of brokenness, and whether or not your family has experienced a divorce or whether or not you're a single parent, there's a lot of broken families who are still married. So I just challenge you guys, dive deeper in this conversation because your congregation needs you to.
And thanks again to Robert. We appreciate you, buddy. We know your heart. We know that, see, Robert had a chance, just a heart check for those of you who want to gauge and say, is this guy legit? Let me tell you, he was a top executive in the music industry and made a choice to completely change to be a part of family ministry because he understood that you had to connect to kids when they're young in order to be able to let that long-term impact happen in their life. So he produced television shows, live shows, music, books, devotionals for kids and their parents. It's an incredible thing. His heart is real and genuine. He gave up a lot to pursue something that to him was even more valuable, and we couldn't agree more. Robert, we love you. Thank you for being a part of the podcast. We also love our guest next week, Jason Byerly.
That's right. Jason's going to be with us, and he is one of the most incredible children's ministry thought leaders on a multi-campus site who, when he talks, you think, oh, he's going to talk way beyond us, but he doesn't. He knows how to give you just what Jeremy calls on a week-in and week-out basis transferable ideas.
Just nonstop brainstorm.
Yeah.
He's just always got so many different things. That he's just a creative genius. I can actually say that about him.
Yes.
You will enjoy Jason. So come back next week and be a part of that. I hope you have a great week, and I hope you have a great week of ministry.
You've been listening to the D6 Podcast. You can learn more about D6 at d6family.com.